Welcome to Insights, and I am especially excited about today because, as we talked about a few weeks ago, I think God is sparking something in the next generation. And today I want to introduce a special guest who is the next generation. We're not just talking about the next generation. Adison Baxter, you are the next generation, and welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so your generation is also known as Generation Z, okay? And your generation has a lot to offer, a lot of great qualities. However, there's one quality I want to talk to you about, and that is that your generation has actually been described as the most anxious generation. Do you agree with that? Do you observe that? If so, how? Or what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with that because I feel like one thing that we need to learn from the older generations is patience. Because I love the saying, I want patience and I want it now, because that describes so many young people, just because I feel like they set these goals that are so unrealistic for them, like that are set 10 years out, when that's not a possibility for them, just because they're so eager.
Mm-hmm. And you're saying that stresses them out,
yeah,
almost trying to go for too much too early.
Exactly, and then they just give up way too early.
Right, so how does it go for you? Just enjoying the day, life's unfolding naturally, we don't need to rush things. How does that go for you?
Yeah, I feel like I try not to plan too far ahead, because then I, psych myself out, start stressing, but I definitely don't want to just wake up and not know what I'm doing for the day. So
okay.
I try to set realistic goals, and once I get used to that, add on.
Okay. So you sound like a purposeful person. You have intention, you're not just letting life happen to you. You want to have a plan and that kind of thing.
Well, obviously I wake up with some intentions of what I'm going to do during the day, but God, usually distracts me and go talk to that person or whatever. And I always, I try my best to let him interrupt my day instead of vice versa. So
that's actually a good word for my generation, where we can be so scheduled that we don't let God interrupt. So that's really good. So you weren't always like this, though, in terms of talking let God interrupt my day. You've been on quite a journey, and that's what we're really here to talk about. So please tell us where you've been and what that process was like leading up to really becoming a committed follower of Jesus.
Well, so I grew up in a Christian household, but we didn't, I think I maybe have less than 5 memories of going to church before the age of 10, just because religion was forced on my parents. And so I was always told that they didn't want to do the same for me, that they wanted me to have a choice, which to a 10-year-old, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to wake up early on a Sunday, it's my weekend. So
so they left the choice to you, but
yeah,
maybe you weren't always ready for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. And eventually, as I got older, I started having questions, and I don't know, I loved science, everything space, everything just exploration, past. So obviously science doesn't align with religion that much. So as I dove deeper into science, I always furthered to, I started to stray away from religion. So.
Okay. So as you strayed, if I remember right, you kind of got to a low place.
Yeah.
Over time, explain that process and what was going on. It sounds to me like a bit of a struggle, but also tug of war inside of you. Please tell us.
Yeah. So my older brother, he's 19 now, but he's 3 years older than me. It's 2.5. But I don't know, he was always my best friend when we were little, and we did everything together, and we shared the same friends, and I don't know, he was just very responsible, always set an amazing example for me and my siblings. And I don't know, just over the years I appreciated how responsible he was and everything, and I started to lean towards more learning from him, just how to be a good person and just what to do right. And as he got older, he started getting religious too, because same with me, he wasn't that 7-year-old that wanted to wake up early on their weekend, but as he got older, he started getting closer to God. So he, come to church with me and come, meet some of my friends and everything. So he was always just an amazing person to be around. And
So it was easy to follow him to church or wherever. He was just your big brother, and you loved him.
Yeah, always made me feel comfortable. Like, it's okay, you can sit by me, but like let's just go to church this weekend, or come meet my friends at youth group. So I started to get into like my own church and everything, because he went to a big church, and I'm not really a fan of big churches, just because like I like being able to know everybody and have a like intimate connection with everyone, and he's more of a passerby at church. So I started going to youth group with some of my friends during the week, and life was good. And I was playing video games actually, and I just heard like really loud footsteps running through my house. I'm like, okay, no one runs in my house. And it was actually my mom, and she busted open my door, and she said, Caden, who's my brother, she said Caden was in a really bad ATV accident. And I don't know, I just like, from that point, like I had never really experienced like death of a close family member or like trauma really at all. It was really one of my first traumatic experiences, and thank God he didn't pass away, but still, I don't know, it was just something inside of me that I felt like died that day, just seeing, my best friend, my older brother, and my father figure laying down, like not being able to move in the middle of a cornfield. And I don't know, I sat there and stared at him for probably like 5 minutes, and I couldn't walk up to him. Like, I didn't know what to do. So we get to the hospital, and I don't know, just the whole time I was just waiting for that catch of like, oh, it's okay, like he can move his legs, like it's fine. But it never really happened, and that just stuck with me for a long time. And a month later, we found the helmet that he was wearing that he almost didn't wear, and there was a crack in it from the front all the way to the back, and it's like he would have either been brain damaged or died if he wasn't wearing that helmet. But so just, I don't know, seeing him like that just made me very angry at God for a long time. Although I didn't fully understand him, I just heard that, everything happens for a reason, but it just made me...
But you didn't like this reason, and you didn't like what happened. And how old were you at the time?
I was 13.
Okay.
So just about to finish up, or just started 8th grade. But it just made me put up this barrier between the Lord and I for a while, and it just made me angry. But seeing him be able to work through that really motivated me to be able to have a relationship with God, because I'm like, if it actually happened to him, and if he's still faithful, then why can't I be?
So there was a wrestling at first, like, if God is all powerful, why did he allow this to my brother? But then in the end, your brother sticks with the faith, and he leans on God, and then you follow suit. Awesome. So where did it go from there? Well,
it continued. It sparked a little bit in the beginning, but after that, it was just right back to the where we started. I just kept declining. I started having deaths in the family. Like, first experience with like close family member deaths. Like, it was traumatizing to me, just because I luckily went so long without any death. But that started happening. My grandma, my uncle, and another one of my aunts got diagnosed with cancer, like all within a couple months of each other. And on top of my grandfather passing and 2 of my grandmas, it was a huge toll on me.
So is this making you think more about spiritual things, or is this actually pushing you away from God?
It was pushing me away, honestly, just because I don't know why. It just continued to make me angrier. I just hit like rock bottom once, and I was going to youth group, and my pastor preached a really nice Bible verse, and like I never really connected when he was talking and stuff, but I was like, wow, that sounds like a really nice Bible verse. So I was actually I went home that night, and I was contemplating taking my life. But I just kept thinking of that Bible verse.
Okay, so in terms of your slide into darkness, where now you're even thinking about suicide, was all of that growing out of the situation with your brother and then your relatives that were passing away, or was there something more that actually was pulling you into that dark spot?
I feel like those instances with my family members and my brother just kind of made me see the negative in everything. Like, everything was already happening. I just didn't pay attention to it until I just started sliding into darkness, and I only saw the negative in everything.
Wow. Was there any like temptation towards drugs or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I was in 8th grade and I was drinking and I was doing drugs and I was just trying to escape from it when really that was just pulling me closer, and I didn't realize that until after I got out of it.
So how did that happen with you where suddenly drugs appeared on the scene? Like did somebody somehow introduce that to you, or did you go seeking it out, or what happened?
It was both. I mean, at the same time that, my friends were starting to do stuff and kids at school, I was just trying to like find ways of coping with stuff because we're like a year out from my brother's accident. I was still like traumatized from it, and I'm like, I need to find help, and I didn't want to go to my parents with it, so I was like, okay, drugs help people. They talk about that, and so I was trying to do it for an escape, but it wasn't working at all.
So when you say it wasn't working, you're saying it was part of this kind of downward spiral you were in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you hear a good message from your youth pastor,
Yeah.
but you go home thinking about suicide. What happened?
I was minutes away from taking my life, and that message just popped into my head, and I was like, well, that's weird, because I never remember, like, Bible verses, but I couldn't remember it fully. So I texted him, and his name is Jacob, and I was like, hey, Pastor Jacob, like, what was that message that you preached on? And he was like, oh, it was Isaiah 41:10. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I don't have a Bible. Like, can you text me what it is? And he was like, yeah, sure. And it was, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, help you. Yes, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Mm-hmm. So that just like, that sparked the first feeling of God, like in me, and like I felt it in my heart. And like I had so many people around me that were like there to help me. I just didn't feel it. Like I didn't feel loved. And then it wasn't until God, like, spoke to me for the first time.
So when you say spoke to you for the first time, it was through that Bible verse. Mm-hmm. And then you said he kind of sparked something in you. Mm-hmm. And then tell us where it went from there.
It was just like I felt so happy and joyful, and I was telling everyone I could. I'm like, I finally felt God. I'm like, everything makes sense now. But so I went and I told my mom, and she was like, do you know the backstory behind that verse? And I was like, no. And she was like, a long time ago when you were younger, I read that verse to you, and you really liked it. And I was like, how old was I? And she was like, you were like 4, and I had no memory of it.
Wow, amazing. And your mom remembered it.
Yeah.
Way to go, Mom.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So as you and your brother started going to church more, and then now you have this spark in your heart and God's real, and you're a person of faith at that point.
Yeah.
And it sounds like part of that, too, that you turned out of a bunch of darkness. I'm assuming drugs. You turned away from a lot of that stuff. And
all of it, yeah.
You said all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there you're on, full on for Christ, okay?
Yeah.
So now, do your parents and you ever go to church together, or are they still kind of on a different path, or what?
Sometimes they'll join us for the Saturday morning services, but usually I go to a different Sunday morning church than my mom and my brother, but I go to like 4 different services a week. So
you go to 4 services, okay. So you're just trying to drink in God's word, be with God's people, respond in faith. So that was pretty dramatic. How old were you when that dramatic turn happened?
15.
Okay.
So from 13 to 15, I was experiencing all that darkness, and it just had such a toll on my life that I hit rock bottom.
So you've really been walking in the life of Christ for at least the last year and a half, something like that. Mm-hmm. So anything you want to highlight from the last year and a half since you came to faith?
Just I've seen such a like huge impact on the people around me and my family members, and obviously with me. I mean, every day is a blessing. I wake up and I thank God for waking me up, and it's just like I used to get so mad about the smallest things, where it's like now I'll just sit and think, I'm like, I'm actually like here, like I'm breathing, like God saved my life. The least I can do is like thank him for waking me up this morning. But
so at the outset, when we talked about Generation Z and anxiety, it sounds like part of the answer for you anyway was just being thankful to the Lord, waking up and being a bit more peaceful about everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so your life has totally changed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you and your brother are still close, right?
Yeah, very close.
Awesome. And where do you feel like God might be leading you from here?
I don't know. I love spreading the gospel and just like preaching to people because I don't know. I love being that spark in people's life that God is in mine. So to be able to just give someone knowledge as easy as the Bible, like it's amazing. So I hope sometime in my future I can become a pastor.
You actually want to be a pastor. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I hope that your desire is fulfilled. Okay, one last question. So my generation would like to be more connected to your generation from the heart. And sometimes, like those of us that know the Lord, we'd really like to both be connected to you in the heart, but also relate about faith, things of God, in a way that you would connect. So can you give my generation, which is a lot of the viewers, can you give my generation any thoughts on how to connect with you, your generation, maybe be an encouragement of faith, not some sort of know-it-all teachers, but can you just share anything with us that might be helpful?
Well, honestly, I feel like being able, like, going to an older generation to ask advice, like, I feel like a problem that a lot of people have is trying so hard to connect that they're just steering away from the original, like, word that they're given by God. Because I feel like if I go to an older generation for advice, I want their opinion. I don't want their opinion that is trying to relate, like...
So just be myself.
Yeah, it's the authenticity that makes it better. And I just feel like the more true to yourself you are, the more true to the word that you're given you are. And,
awesome. Well, Adison, thanks for being with us. God has obviously sparked something in your heart. I'm kind of sensing, though, that God is doing this in a number of people in Generation Z. And this is thrilling because, you know, the future, I'd like to influence the future the best I can with the years that I have left. But God getting a hold of your generation, it could be amazing. And I just want to encourage you that while there's plenty of spiritual darkness out there, you broke out of it. And I want to encourage you to share your story, help more people hear how you can hear from God and break out of the darkness. So thanks, Adison. And look forward to being with you next time on Insights.